Before we start today's episode, we have a few things we'd like to state. Firstly, this episode was recorded before George Floyd's death led to protest and activism throughout the world. We had decided to postpone releasing this episode out of respect for the protest and those sharing stories on social media. We are not typically a political podcast. Every episode we try to bring you a fun distraction from the world, which is why we've actively decided to keep most political talk out of the show. However, we cannot be silent on this issue. Myself, Brandon, and the entire Entertainment Buffet team unequivocally supports the movement and believes that Black Lives Matter. Entertainment Buffet has also made a donation to the Chicago Community Bond Fund. We will link that and other places to donate to in the description of this episode. We understand that this is also a financially difficult time for many, so if you're unable to donate but are interested in getting involved, we will also link those resources in the description. Lastly, we hope everyone is taking care of their own mental health. We will also link to mental health resources. Stay safe, take care of yourself and others, wear a mask, and we hope you use this episode and our future ones to come as a happy distraction from everything.
We could all use some comfort, and while we know you guys are already binging shows, watching movies and documentaries and such, we decided to give you some recommendations on some of our own comfort viewings on episode 78 of the podcast. Cue the music. Welcome, everyone, to the Entertainment Buffet podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Prosek.
And I'm another one of your hosts, Jessica Kwazz.
And, Jess, we are going to keep it nice and simple, nice and breezy, talk about some nice and comfort viewings.
Yes. Yes.
Oh. Wake up, too comfortable.
I know, we're a little too comfortable right now. I am definitely feeling a comfortable vibe with some of the things I've been watching. I don't know, things are, of course, we don't need to tell you, things are super weird right now. And sometimes it just is really nice to throw on a TV show or movie and just, go a little mindless and feel a little comfortable. Feel like you're getting a nice warm hug from, a show, your screen. I don't know. I could use some of that right now.
Yes. In case you're watching this from the distant future, we're recording this in May of 2020 during the coronavirus pandemic. So currently, I'm in Chicago, Jess is out in Colorado, and we're both isolating, quarantining, and doing what everyone's doing, and we're watching stuff. And there's no movies coming out in theaters. There's some new shows dropping on streaming and such and TV, but some of the stuff we know is not exactly favorable viewing. I'm pretty sure even like the creator of Black Mirror is like, I don't think we need this right now.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did. He was like, yeah, we're not trying to work on anything right now because I don't think the world needs that. we're all like, yeah,
my show's pretty fucked up, I'll admit.
Right. 2020 got Black Mirror canceled because we're out here wilding. It's like, yeah, we see it in our real life. We don't need to see it in a show. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, we're going to try to keep it light. And like you said, these are probably stuff you guys may already been watching. It's stuff you've probably already seen or maybe grew up watching. And we wanted to just give you some more suggestions on some comfort things. We'd love to hear from you guys. What are some comfort movies or comfort shows that you tune into? during times like this when things are just fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, sometimes you just need to sit on your couch, plop something on, zone into it, and forget everything else. And these are like the movies and TV shows that work for us, that are a nice distraction and a nice comfort, makes us feel a certain way that makes us feel good. So, yeah, I think we could all use more of that right now.
Before we get into the topic, we're going to jump into what we've been watching. Really.
So I've been watching a lot because, because because we out here, or in here, I should say. I've still been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, and it is doing it for me. It is, I have been in a zen place when I sit on my couch, I pop on that Nintendo Switch, just play it, have a movie or TV show on in the background. I'm like zen. I'm good. Like the world is away from me. Animal Crossing doing it for me. But aside from Animal Crossing, I watched finally The Train to Busan, which is on Netflix. It's a Korean horror movie, and it is so well done. It's a zombie movie that takes place on a train. Basically, like, without giving too much away, a zombie equivalent kind of situation. Not totally zombies, but a weird virus is probably not the best time for this movie, but it's great. Just realize that. But basically, this town is kind of infected. That the town has an outbreak, and someone with the virus gets on a train that's heading to, you guessed it, Busan. And it's just like this interesting, like, almost like Snowpiercer meets Walking Dead kind of situation happening on this train. And it's really well done. It's really intense. And the acting's incredible. And it was just like a fun zombie apocalypse movie. And then another movie that I finally watched was Solo, A Star Wars Story.
You hadn't seen it?
I hadn't seen it. I was really, really obviously dragging my feet on it. And
I wonder why.
It's so weird. I think we probably talked about this in, like, episodes past about how, like, I felt about Solo, but I just was not excited about it. I was super against it. Like, I just wasn't into it. When the trailers first came out, the only thing that I thought was cool was Donald Glover, and I was right about that. Like, he is great in the movie. But, like,
Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the droid also.
Yeah, she's the droid, which was a very fun droid, very fun, like, feministy droid that I enjoyed. Yeah, I just finally on Star Wars Day this year decided, all right, we're gonna watch it. So we sat down and watched it, and it was interesting because it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Because of one of the reasons, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, obviously, but I didn't rush to go see it because the reviews were so bad, and I thought I would be, like, angry by it, so I was like, I don't need to see that, I don't need to deal with that, I'm gonna pretend like it doesn't exist. But yeah, it was, like, I would say it was fine, which is, like, what I say for a lot of movies. It was fine. It wasn't, like, the best, it was not the worst, it was solidly okay, and, like, the actor who played Solo was pretty good. I feel like he did his best. That is a really hard role to step into because we all have a certain idea of what it's supposed to be, and that's hard. That's hard to step into a role that's been formulated like that. But I think he did a pretty good job. I think the story is bonkers. It's so packed. Like, it's the most plot heavy Star Wars movie I've ever watched. Like, it was almost like not super hard to follow, but at times I'd be like, wait, how did we get to this point? And I'd have to, like, think back of, like, oh yeah, that happened, and then that happened, and that led to this thing. And it's just very packed with story.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters. But when I did, in spring of 2018, I waited until, like, it was very late in its theater run to go see it in theaters because, like you said, I was against seeing it too, and it wasn't as bad as people said, but it also, I was like, man, there probably was a good movie somewhere in the makings of this, whether it was the actors involved, whether it was the original directors, and like it just, you can tell that it felt like there were ideas and things that were going to happen, and then too many hands were in the pot, or too many things, people got afraid to take chances, and it really got muddied. And I bet a lot of it had to do with kind of like reactions to Rogue One or reactions to Last Jedi, things like that. And so like it's weirdly, I think I heard it is the most expensive Star Wars movie, just because they pretty much had to reshoot, was it like 2/3 of it, or like a third of it? Like it was a large portion, and I'm like, well, why would you redo it? Like that's so unnecessary. And you could have made like 3 original indie films for what you probably spent on reshoots. But it just, yeah, that movie's disappointing. And like it just, like you said, I was very surprised. I was excited because it was Lawrence Kasdan and his son Jonathan Kasdan doing the writing. I'm like, oh, he's the one who helped out with Empire Strikes Back and like Indiana Jones. Like he's gonna be in it, and like his son's working on it too. This is gonna be a great script. Script was like one of the worst things for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel the same exact way. Like when that was first announced, I was like, okay, well at least the script could be really good. That was honestly one of the only things I thought like was in its corner. And then it ended up being like probably the worst part about it. Like that story was like I could barely tell you what happens in that movie, because it's just so much. Like so much is happening, and it's like, okay, if we just like took it back a step and made it like a tiny bit simpler, like maybe we would all be a little bit more on board. But it was just like they're constantly doing things and constantly jamming things, and it's almost like, but like why though? It's kind of like an origin story. We don't need like this much happening.
Yeah.
But it was like visually pretty good. Like the cast is good. Like there was some little like, things that happened. But what was also strange on the story, and this will be like my final note on it, was that the movie just kind of stops. Like that's the ending. Like the movie just like stops happening. Like, and that was super weird. Like things happen and then the credits roll, and I was like, oh, that was that ending? Like, how did that, anything get, what? Like, it just stopped.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that it suffered from, and this will be my final thing on it, we can move on from Solo, was it shouldn't have had to be an origin. It's like he's just, why couldn't it have just been like he's younger than he was in the fourth, and then in the original Star Wars, and we just see him and Chewie and like stuff that they were up to. Like why did it have to be like how they met, how he got his name, how he why he does that. Oh, this is the guy who taught him to shoot first. Like it just, it felt like I don't care about how-to stuff. Like just show me something he was up to when he was younger, and I would have been much happier with that.
Yeah, and I feel like they kind of tried to have it both ways, where it was an origin story and like an adventure, and I think that's why it maybe felt like so much was happening. And all the like origin stuff was kind of like lackluster. Like I guess the only cool thing was like him and Chewie, how they met. Like I thought that was fun, but other than that, it was just like, oh, okay, he got his dice just from his ex-girlfriend, like, okay, or like he got his blaster from this dude, cool. Like it's not much going on, and I don't know, it was again, it was fine, it was just solidly fine. So another thing I've been watching, or I have watched all of, is season 2 of Dead to Me on Netflix. It's really a good show. It's really funny. It's so interesting because it's essentially a comedy thriller, which I've never really seen done before. The performances are amazing. Christina Applegate is hilarious. This was honestly one of the only pieces of content I've watched probably in all of quarantine that actually had me like laughing out loud so hard. Because it's hard to get a laugh nowadays, but this did it. Dead to Me, I think season 1 is great and interesting. Season 2 is just even better. If you like true crime and comedy, then that's your show.
Cool. Is there any other movies or shows you've been tuning into?
I've been watching a lot of Lifetime movies because they bring me comfort. Truly, which we'll get into later.
We'll get into. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded, and I watched a little bit more than I thought. First being sort of a mistake, but also I'm glad I at least saw it because I would have been curious. Watched Outbreak.
Okay. I've been thinking about watching it. How was it?
Well, it's because I saw it was leaving Netflix. And so, like, I literally watched it because I'm like, well, it's going to be off Netflix and I don't want to have to rent it. And yeah, it's it's very, like, you see a lot of, like, parallels to, like, what's going on now with that. But, like, this movie had, like, a stacked cast at the time. This is a 90s movie with Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
He's a bit role, luckily.
Okay.
And Donald Sutherland. And, yeah, it was just Cuba Gooding Jr. Like, it was an insane cast. And it was fine. Like, it was a drama. And, like, obviously a lot of it wasn't just the virus stuff, but it was, like, kind of like a conspiracy cover-up type stuff. And, like, I'm like, oh, this is too real. But also, like, it was weird. We were joking before the podcast, but, like, it was weirdly comforting. Or not comforting, but, like, I was just saying how, like, they have it so much easier in this movie because, like, the people get it and then, like, die really quickly. And, like, it was only in, like, this one town that was isolated. And, like, you could look at someone and be like, they have it. Like, it was a very obvious, whereas, like, nowadays we're dealing with much more scarier things. And so I was like, well, you know, I thought I was going to be a little bit more freaked out by this movie, but I'm like, it's... So anyway, Outbreak. I am considering watching Contagion. Haven't seen that.
Yeah, I have heard that is more intense to watch because that's more in line with what's happening now. So I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Gotcha. Totally different side of the realm. I watched Princess Mononoke for the first time.
Aw, that's a good one.
I've heard that director with his animated movies, they're really good. I thought the animation was good, and it had a pretty good voice cast. Especially for being in, like, the, 97 was that when that movie came out. Very original, very awesome animation. I want to see more of what that director has done. Totally different. This is a weird diary. Now that I'm looking at these, I've been all over the map. I watched Team America World Police for the first time.
Oh my god, I haven't seen that movie in forever. That's a movie.
Yeah, and, like, I just found it so funny when they do, like, the marionette kind of puppet sex scene. Yeah, and that, like, so they almost got NC-17 for that, and I'm like, it's not real. It also is weirdly relevant for today, like, it's commentary on America and, like, for a movie that came out in 2004, it is, it's there's still some relevant stuff to it. I rewatched a couple things, a couple movies that I really liked. Rewatched Clue, which I'll talk about again in a little bit. I rewatched 3:10 to Yuma. It's a good Western. Couple other movies that I saw for the first time. The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais. Which, like, have you seen that, Jess?
No, I haven't. I remember hearing about it, but I never saw it.
Yeah, just the premise that it's a world where no one knows how to lie. Like, it's just, like, everyone just tells the truth, and it's usually pretty brutal. And then Ricky Gervais discovers he knows how to lie, and, like, shenanigans ensue. And there was just one bit I really loved where he turns on a commercial, and I think it's with Jimmy... I think the actor's name is Jimmy Olsen. It's like a Coca-Cola commercial, and he's just like, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from Coke, and just saying we'd really like you to buy it. It's the same. It's still packed with sugar, very unhealthy, and we've Got a new can, though. There's a little polar bear on it, so the kids will like us. And this is just me, reminding you to please buy Coke. And I was like, oh my god, that is, like, so perfect. Because whenever I see Coke ads, I'm like, are people forgetting that Coke's a thing?
Right.
That they're spending all this money on these ads? Yeah. I also, the other night, watched Date Night for the first time with Steve Carell and Tina Fey.
Oh, yeah, I never saw that.
I'll say it's disappointing because, like, the potential, it could have been really funny. It has insane cast. I just said Tina Fey and Steve Carell as the leads. It's got, I'm pretty sure that actor Jimmy Olsen. It's got Common. It's got Ray Liotta, Mark Wahlberg, William Fichtner. Like, tons of, like, stars now who, like, I think in 2010 were, like, not as big in, like, one scene roles. Like, Olivia Munn randomly has, like, one scene as, like, a hostess. And it's just, like, it felt, I'm like, this could have been something, but I don't know what happened, and it just didn't work. And lastly, I did watch all 3 episodes of Middleditch and Schwartz on Netflix.
Oh, that's actually the last live event I went to before the quarantine. Yeah, actually it was like the day before you came out. We went to go see them, and it was hilarious. And they were actually making coronavirus jokes, and we were like, "Ha, this is fun." And we didn't know where it went. But yeah, I saw them. That was like my last big live event I went to, and they're hilarious. I haven't watched their Netflix special yet, though.
Yeah, I was mad because I had bought tickets to see them at the Chicago theater, and then, like, months and months later, I forgot because, like, I bought them like 4 to 6 months in advance or something, and then all of a sudden I had booked a show and I didn't want to miss the show, and so I was like, well, I guess I just got to give my tickets to someone else and sell them off, and so I didn't see them live, but, like, I did see these specials. Specials are very funny. I think there's one that kind of sticks out. I think it's the first one, sticks out way more than the other two, and, like, it's improv. It's some stuff's gonna land, stuff won't. I just think personally, as someone who sees stand-up and variety shows all the time, that, like, I love them not only because they're both hilarious and have great chemistry, but they just do something different where, like, if someone establishes that, like, oh, I'm Carl in this scene, and the other one's like, oh, I'm, like, Janet, that they will sometimes hop to a different role, than the other person will then, who was Janet, will hop into playing Carl.
Yeah.
And, like, back. And then they'll straight up at some point just like, and I forgot the name.
Yeah.
And then they'll fuck with each other, and then, like, the audience will be like, the name's Carl. Like, oh, it's Carl. You know, and so they'll, like, fuck with each other, do, like, little things, run around the stage, and I'm just like, man, it's crazy how, like, 2 people can play so many different characters well, where I've seen improv teams that, like, when they go up, like, they can't handle one character.
Right,
you know?
yeah. They, like, interchange, and they just both can go into them almost seamlessly and come out of them and go into a new one. Yeah, they're hilarious, and I love Ben Schwartz. I have such a crush on that man. After the show, I straight up told my boyfriend, like, if there's ever a chance, I'm, like, gonna leave you for Ben Schwartz. And he fully was like, okay, yeah, no, I get that. Like, I understand. So we love him. I love him. I think, and he's so cute, and he's just so funny and charming. Anyway, that's enough of that. But yeah. But yes,
Yeah.
they're great. They're very good. I'm very happy for them. They got a special. I mean, improv specials, like, that's not really a thing. So
yeah,
good for them.
It's like, I almost don't want anyone else to. I'd rather just keep giving them more.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm like, just keep recording, like, all these touring that they were doing. Yeah, I'd keep watching. Lastly, a couple other shows I've been watching the miniseries from years ago. It was on History Channel, the Hatfields and Mccoys.
Oh, yeah. I remember I watched, like, an episode or 2 of that, and I was interested in it back in the day. How is it now?
I mean, so it's 3 parts, and like each part's like an hour 40, so it's almost like just 3 movies in a way. I'm think I got about 15 to 20 minutes left of part 3. There's some good acting, you know, obviously like the costume design and set stuff for the time period, but like if this is kind of true to like what this story was between like this family feud that was real, it's just sad because it's over such stupid things that like all these people are like killing each other, like, oh, for like the dumbest thing. It like literally started with one of them. I know someone who fought for the South, and you're wearing a Northern jacket for like the Civil War time, and like, and like kills him, and then all of a sudden now the other family's pissed and accusatory of this, and so they kill them, and it's just a lot of back and forth, and they keep thinking that they're gonna like tilt the tables, like that oh, now it'll be even, and it's not, and it's just like a. I think one of the reviews I saw for it was just like, it's not that the telling of it is bad, it's just that like this is just a bad, like a shitty thing in history, if you will, you know. It's like it's important to see how crazy something like this can happen between 2 big families, but also it's not like there was a clear hero villain situation,
right?
You know, both sides had like heroes and both sides had villains in a way, and you can maybe bring things back to like who quote unquote started it, but does that really matter, because they both continued it.
Right.
And it was for like over 10 years, like it was for like
Jesus.
10-15 years or something like that. Like every now and then all of a sudden they'd kill people, and then things would stop and more killings. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is so dumb. This is over something so dumb. Yeah, and lastly, I finished Better Call Saul season 5. So I'm completely caught up on that show before next season is going to be their final season. Yeah, I love that show. I still think that like the little frustrating thing being some of the BC stories being like, hey, this is a Breaking Bad origins for like Mike and Gus and like the Salamancas and this, and I'm like, okay, it's still good TV, but I signed up for a Saul show. So, and like it's all great, it's all good, it's not that it's bad, it's just I almost wish that it was 2 different shows. Mm-hmm. I almost wish it was like Gus and Mike, you know, origins, and then Saul / Jimmy McGill over here.
Yeah.
You know, but I get it, they have to be intertwined. But yeah, I still recommend it. I think it's one of my favorite shows. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
I actually remembered there was something I forgot to mention that I watched. So I'm going to take the spotlight from you real quick. I have been watching Westworld season 3. And it's weird because like the first episode of the season 3 premiered during our first week of quarantine, so that's how we've been able to kind of like keep track of like how time passing, because it was like, okay, we're now on episode 3, it's been 3 weeks and now it's over, so we're like, time is out the window, I don't know how long we've been here. But it was really bad, it was rough, it was disappointing as hell, like it was bad. It was really, really bad. And it turns like out I'm not the only one that thought so. It's so disappointing though, because season 1 is so incredible, I think. In my opinion, season 1 is great TV. And I really do think now, like in retrospect, it really should have just been like a nice miniseries that maybe it was a little bit longer than 10 episodes and like that was it. Because season 2 got a little bonkers. There were still some like really cool parts of it. But now season 3, it's like it's actually a totally different show in a way that's like not cool, in a way that's like very derivative of like other sci-fi movies, and like we weren't even in the park. Like that's what's so weird, is it Westworld didn't even feature Westworld. So it's like, what are we doing here? I don't understand. But yeah, it was pretty rough. It was pretty bad, and it was very disappointing. But it did make me want to rewatch season 1 just to be like, man, those were the days. Like,
yeah. Well, and it makes you think how, like you said, like should it have been a miniseries, or I mean, here's one thing that they could have done an anthology type series where it's like here's a season of Westworld, here's a season of like that samurai world that they showed, and like all the different worlds maybe, or just like different guests going on different like quote unquote storylines that they have set up, like in Westworld, to where like it can keep changing. But they it's like they tried to make it like too trippy and too like existential, of like the robots wanting to escape and like realizing what they are and like this, and while I get why they went that route, I mean, I'm almost uninterested in checking out season 3 because like I've heard that it's bonkers.
Yeah, and it's like I think season 1 really like knocked out a lot of the plot, so now it's just like, well, let's just see where this robot thing goes, like, kind of thing. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, this isn't exciting. And like now we're like, this season we were in like our world, the real world, and it was very convoluted, and also like they really jammed in like a lot of like newer things that like just weren't interesting, and like it didn't matter how it ended. And they've also changed the rules of the show so much that like there are no stakes anymore. Like if someone dies, it's like, well, they'll probably come back, they're a robot, like who fucking cares. Like it's just
right.
Yeah, it's just it's so disappointing because it was so great and it had such cool potential. And I think it came at a time when they were transitioning out Game of Thrones and kind of transitioning in like the new thing, and I think it could have had potential to be the new thing. And HBO is pumping money into it like it still is, but it's just like, let's calm down, like let's just bring it in a little bit. So I don't know, I was so disappointed this season.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because like you said, they definitely wanted this to be their next Game of Thrones. And I just think that the writers wanted to make a different type of show. And so it went a different direction, and it has just been a little fuzzy. You know, it's just not been... They tried going too much this way, and they should have, instead of expanding, just like, hey, like focus on the things that like what people are liking, and maybe not quite like the robots trying to see. Because like the other thing too was, I noticed in season 2 they kept pulling the like, oh, this person's a robot, and I'm like, well, well, who isn't anymore?
Right.
You know,
like,
I
don't care. Like that's what was interesting about season 1, was like the dynamics of like real versus artificial, and like we didn't need everyone to be like, oh, artificial. And season 1 has like so many interesting like reveals and like surprises that you never saw coming, and I think they were just constantly trying to do that in a way that was like, okay, well, I didn't see that coming because it's stupid, like that's just stupid, and I didn't see it coming because who cares, like no. And then the season 1 was also very cerebral and like made you think about like the nature of your reality, but they tried to do that way too much, to the point where it's like, I'm just confused by what you're trying to tell me, because I don't get it. But it's wild. It was such a bad season. Season 2 wasn't amazing either, but they've been renewed for like 3 more seasons, and they're having so much money fueled into it. So it's like, what's gonna happen next? Like, we'll see in 3 years after they like finish filming. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I figured that like they would have only done like 4 seasons or maybe 5, but yeah, it's off the rails, and I think viewership has even probably been down for the season, or maybe it's just been up because of quarantine. But like for the most part, it feels like most people I've talked to, is if they weren't lost in season 2, like they're kind of like, what the fuck in season 3.
Yeah, and no, viewership has gone down. It's been declining since season 1 ended. So that says a lot right there. And like, honestly, after this, I'm like, well, I don't think I'll be watching. I mean, we'll see in like 3 years when it comes out, but like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a show that is so expensive and so hard to shoot that it comes out like every other year or every couple years, like you really got to hook us. Like Game of
Right.
Thrones, I think had that hook, whereas like I think this one doesn't quite have us yet.
Yeah, and it really could have, because season one was so good and so beloved. Like, it had us hooked, and then they were just like, they just kind of, I don't even know what happened on their end. I think it's like we've talked about for a few things, like the makings were there. It definitely could have been a big thing, and it was for a season, and then it just went off the rails, and it's so, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what they're doing there. But now it's like the writing has gotten almost elementary, which is insane because it was such high quality writing in season one. But now it's like there's just exposition just like laid out. Like robots are being like, "Why are we doing this? Oh, we're doing it. Don't forget, we're doing it because it is." It's just like I can't. I could go on ranting about it for a very long time, but we should probably move on to more positive things.
And now that we've talked about what we've been watching, we're going to go ahead and jump into the thing we really came to talk about, which was our favorite comfort viewings. So this could be movies or shows that we put on when things aren't the best. We need some comfort. We need to go under a blanket, maybe get some ice cream or some desserts in some fashion, maybe some alcohol or whatever it is, some legal weed. Like,
or illegal weed, whatever, depending on where you live.
Need, and you just gotta chill for a little bit. So, one that I noticed that's on both of our lists that I think we should talk about is Parks and Recreation.
Yes, of course. This has been on my list for years of like comfort viewing. It's just a show that I could pop into and just be immersed in it, find myself laughing, find myself being more hopeful. I think Leslie Knope is just such a great character because her spirit is always positive and ambitious, and she is infectious with that. And I just find it to be such a nice, I don't know, like just watching all the positive things that happen. My favorite season of Parks and Rec, I do have to say, is season 4 when she's running, because it's just like they get roadblock after roadblock after roadblock and issue and issue and issue, and the way like they just overcome it and keep trekking along and keep going as like a unit is really just positive and lovely. And they just did the reunion special, which I thought I was
gonna bring that up.
Yeah, like I enjoyed that a lot. That brought me a lot of comfort during this crazy time, and that was just so amazing to have it like come back for us briefly and I don't know, remind us about that.
What a cool idea! And like now, it's all of a sudden it's becoming a trend because Community's doing a table read of an old episode. With all like the original cast. I think I heard that there's a Scrubs one in the mix. Like it seems like a lot of people are kind of following suit to this idea of like doing a charity based reunion special of a loved show. And I find it funny how like so many people love saying like, oh, I just throw on The Office and this is this, but like I think Office has a thing where it can be frustrating, like the quality kind of sways here and there. But like Parks and Rec is just so positive, like you said, because of Leslie Knope's character, because of like all these characters just bring joy. And I think that while there's always the talk of like season 1's not as good, and like I've rewatched season 1 and I'm like, I don't think it's not as good. I just think they were still, like most shows, finding their footing.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
were getting things in because they were pretty much told, I think, to be like another Office.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then there's the writers got to eventually like make the characters their own, and the performers got to, shine, and they weren't as heavy on the interviewing like of the mockumentary style. And it's just so much fun. There's so many things, and like this special I think was a perfect example of what the show is, with the different dynamics, of Leslie and Ben, and then her with Ron, and the dynamics with Chris and Andy. or not Chris and Andy, Andy and
April.
April. I was thinking it because like they transitioned to like Chris and and Anne and the Jerry bit throughout. They have like bit characters that come in like Perd Hapley.
Yeah.
At home with Joan.
Joan is my favorite. Any
Ben
episode
Schwartz,
with Joan.
John Ralphio.
Yeah, John Ralphio. And like I love it too, like because it's not hokey positivity. It's like things happen and get rough, but like it's like real to life positivity. And also like it's funny in that it's like making fun of the characters and themselves, but not in like a very harsh way. Like The Office, like I enjoy, but sometimes it can get very harsh towards its like other characters to the point where it's like, okay, this is kind of mean. But like,
or like people are jerks.
Yeah, but like the jokes on Parks and Rec don't really come from a vicious place at all. And I think that's why it brings me more comfort than some shows, because it's just like it's like you're making fun of your friends, or you're watching a group of friends or family make fun of each other. It's not like vicious or mean. And I think that's what I really like about the humor, because it's very hard nowadays, especially, or within the last decade or two, like to find comedy that's not harsh, especially like consistently. It's just like consistent positive comedy. I think that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah. And I think the best thing I can kind of equate it to, and I'm sure you could think about this for a lot of animated shows like, say, Simpsons or South Park or Family Guy. But the thing I always loved about Parks and Rec is it feels like there's so many characters in like that town. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that like that special was an example, like Jam and like Dennis Feinstein with Jason Mantzoukas, and like Paul Rudd was like a character for a while, and Joan and Perd and, you know, all these different people that like it felt like this like a town.
Yes.
And like all those meetings where she'd be in front of town members and they're just complaining about random things, and I just think that was a cool thing, and it was so fun. And it's a show that really doesn't waver in quality, really. Like I'm sure there, like you said, like favorite seasons and like lesser favorite seasons, but for the most part, like once it goes, it gets going, and it's just so fun throughout. Like the only other show I can think of that feels like as much like joy as this one without being harsh is like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's the only
which is a lot of the
one.
same writers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like Parks and Rec is also a show where like you can either watch it from beginning to end, every single episode, or you could just jump right into it. It's not like some shows, it's like, oh, you can't just jump right into it. You wouldn't understand the jokes. Like, I like Good Place a lot, but I don't think Good Place is a show you can just, like, jump right into, because you might be forgetting a lot of, like, plots about it or what's happening in that moment. Whereas, like, Parks and Rec, like, the plots are, like, happening, but they're kind of easy to understand. So you can just, like, dive right into it. Or if you want to watch it beginning to end, that's fun, too. So it's just one show, for sure. Like, if I'm ever stressed or upset or sad or mad, like, it just kind of calms me down and makes me laugh, too.
Yeah, definitely. Another show that I brought up that has like a reunion thing coming up soon, Community. I know this is not necessarily one that you dove into as much, but it's a show that like it's my second favorite comedy, right behind Seinfeld, and I think that it's just so silly sometimes, and I love Abed and Troy, and like some of the episodes are just perfect parodies and homages to different genres and different things. Like there's an entire episode that is like a David Fincher homage / spoof, pretty much, of like Zodiac and like David Fincher movies. Like they put the David Fincher filter, which is like that kind of darker look that he puts in all of his movies, and like the whole thing was about someone in the school. Anytime someone bends over and there's like a plumber's crack, a person would just like put a quarter like in the butt crack, and so they called it like the ass crack bandit, and so like everyone was like investigating who it was as if it's like a murderer, and like it's explaining it, it's a ridiculous premise, but somehow these writers make it work, and it's so fun. And there's just lots of episodes like that are just, I'm like, this shouldn't work. Mm-hmm. Like, this shouldn't. Like, this is dumb. And, like, you put this in front of most writers, and this would just be, like, literally throwing shit at a fan. But, like, these writers and these actors and like, they make it work. And Community, I love throwing it on, and it's on Netflix now. For those who weren't watching it on Hulu or anything, it's on Netflix too now.
Nice. So I have another show that is comfort viewing for me. Probably not for you, but for me it is. It's very cheesy, but that's why it's a comfort to me, and that is Full House. Yeah.
Or Fuller House.
Or Fuller House, which is just as cheesy and lovely, in my opinion. I, interestingly enough, went on a Full House journey, like, a year ago. Like, a true journey. I don't know where it came from. My best friend back home was starting to watch it beginning to end, and I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. And so I also watched...
That's not a bad idea. How many seasons are there?
There's so many. I think there's like 8. And it's back in the day when you had to pump out episodes. So I'm pretty sure there's like 22 episodes at least a season. There's a lot of episodes. There's so many episodes, and I've seen them all. Every single one. And I don't know, man. I can't explain it. I just went
So there's 192 episodes.
And I've seen them all. And that doesn't even count Fuller House, which I've also seen all of them. I love it so much.
66 episodes of that. Wow.
Okay, so 250 episodes. Luckily, each one's only like a half hour, so I haven't spent too much time. But it's just, like, I just love it because it's such a product of its time, which is fun. Like, watching it, you just kind of feel like you're in a time capsule, which is, like, interesting. I mean, the storylines, of course, are insane and weird, and, like, they just get weirder as the show goes, but they're just so cheesy, and that's why I love it. I love how cheesy it is, and I love how, like, everything's kind of wrapped up by the end of, like, the episode. Everything's, like, fine. No, like, storyline ever really carries over. Like, it's just one-offs constantly. And, like, they're always just, like, I don't know. The dynamic of the cast is, like, really fun to watch, too. And it's funny because Fuller House, like, gets a lot of shit. I don't care. I think Fuller House is awesome, actually, because it's also very self-aware. Like, they make fun of how cheesy it is, which I appreciate. And it's just like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, there's just something about it that's, like, so almost mindless. Like, obviously, it's like a family show. The plots are never, like, you know, the stakes aren't very high, okay? Like, it's cool. Like, and it's just fun to kind of go into that and go back to this weird, like, 80s cheesy family time. I don't know, I just love it. And I think probably because too, obviously there's a nostalgia factor to it because I loved the show as a kid. I was obsessed with it. And so it was fun revisiting it, like I said, a year ago, and I, like, blew through everything, went on the journey, no regrets. I was, like, into it. I was into it. And, like, yeah, it's just, like, even when, like, really tough stuff happens on that show, because actually, like, the show gets into some very real things, it's still just, like, packaged in a way that's like, yeah, but everything's gonna be okay, like, you're fine. So it's like, I don't know, that weirdly brings me comfort. Like, how cheesy it is brings me joy.
Makes sense. And like you said, when there's a show that we grew up with, but then also has a sequel show that pretty much kind of capitalizes on the same type of tone, I get it. I enjoyed some of Fuller House when I saw it. I don't hate it. Maybe someday I'd watch it. I think it just kind of fell. It's one of those, like, the thing with Netflix is I feel like if you don't watch it, like, the weekend it comes out, then, like, you kind of miss the boat.
Yeah, then you forget about it because there's something
and
else.
And then a new thing comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or you're finishing something already.
Yeah. And, like, I think with Fuller House, too, like, I'll defend Fuller House until I die. Like, everyone's like, it's lame, it's stupid. But I'm like, I think it's kind of awesome. Like, I think it's funny. And it's, like, also just, like, this nice, like, positive spot on our, like, content. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like nowadays it's really, really hard to do like a wholesome family show without it being like super hokey, which sometimes it is, of course, but like it's also pretty much grounded in nowadays too. So like they make a lot of like political jokes that you wouldn't expect, or like they make a lot of like jokes about like how adults are nowadays or how millennials are nowadays that like work and land. I don't know, and it's just again like hokey wholesomeness of like family. Yes, I love it. I love it. Like the last episode of Fuller House, I like legit cried during it because it was just so sweet. It was so sweet and it got to me, and like I love it. I love Full House. I'm I'm not ashamed.
Yeah.
A little slightly ashamed, but whatever.
So one show that, even though it sometimes dives into like darker subjects, for the most part is comedic, is the show Psych.
Okay, I never was really into Psych.
So like the early seasons for me, like I could watch over and over. I think a lot of it is not even the... And that's the thing, is like I feel like sometimes detective or procedural shows, you're invested in the whatever they're I was about to say they're detectiving, like whatever they're investigating, like that episode, like you're invested in that, and I'm like, that's not the case with Psych. Like what I'm invested in is it's so fun to see Sean and Gus do their thing where like they're hilarious and their chemistry and they're idiots at the same time and they're immature, and like it's got sometimes I feel like a similar to a Brooklyn Nine-Nine vibe, where it's like they're talented but they're also like idiots. They're very much like Peralta. Like Peralta and Sean Spencer would probably be like best friends if they were in the same show. I think that it's just so fun. It does get dark at times, and sure, they're usually investigating murders, but for the most part, that's like a tiny thing, and like that's the journey they're going on. But it's usually just the goofiness that I'm in it for. That's a show, and especially if you're into like 80s nostalgia, that show really dives into a lot of things where they start spoofing / bringing in tons of 80s stars from things like I don't know, I'm trying to think, like Twin Peaks, like they do a Clue episode. They bring in pretty much at one point it feels like all the people from like Breakfast Club except for like I think Emilio Estevez. Like they just bring in so many 80s stars, and so it's like, oh, that's what's their face from that thing, It's just fun. And so yeah, those first few seasons I can throw in an episode, and I'm sure at some point it's going to make me laugh.
That sounds fun. I did not know they did all those like 80s references. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the showrunners totally grew up in that era, so it's like they'll randomly have like they did almost like a pandemic type episode, like an outbreak episode, and Judd Nelson, who plays Bender in Breakfast Club, is the doctor randomly, and so like they'll just get someone like that to come in and be this character, and then like it's not always like references. Sometimes it's them just joking of like an absurd television show or movie that no one's thinking of, and then other times it's just like that person. And they pretty much have like a Twin Peaks episode called Dual Spires, where it's like almost all of the Twin Peaks cast, because it's like that actor Sean who plays Sean, James Roday, that was like his favorite show, so they did like a straight up dual. It's called Dual Spires, like Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
It's very weird, and so yeah, it's just a unique show that I feel like is very underrated.
That's awesome. So, another show for me in the vein of detectives is Law and Order Svu. Oh my god,
Surprising that this is comforting.
It is. I know, it's so weird. Going through this, I realized that some of the things that comfort me are wild. Like, wild. But Law and Order Svu just does it for me. I think it's just like the literal procedure of it all. Like, every episode is, like, I don't want to say the same, because it's not. Like, they are very different, but, like, there's always, like, sort of a formula that they usually follow, and that's just what does it for me. It just, like, puts me in a lull, because it's like, oh, I'm familiar with this. I know I know what's going down. And Olivia Benson is just my girl. Like, I could watch her fight injustices all day. And I
fight injustices
all day, baby. And like, it's just, yeah, like, obviously the episode to episode can be very intense. Like, they deal with some really, really heavy things, but it's just, like, done so in a way that, like, feels like shining a light on, like, the injustices of our society. And it's like, yeah, it makes you think, but it's also just like, oh, Olivia's killing it. She's doing so great. And, like, I could just plow it through it, a full marathon every day, just relax and, like, watch Law & Order Svu. I don't know what it is, because there's some, like, really heinous things, as the intro says, especially heinous, but I'm, like, there. I'm in it, and it just lulls me. It just makes me feel good. I don't know why.
It's probably because it's a formula that you're used to, and you're like, oh, and I want a problem, and then, like you said, justice. And
yes.
Like this, and, like, it's just, you know what's gonna happen. There's not really stakes, because, like, the people come and go that are, like, the victims, and so usually, you know, everything's gonna be fine by the end of the episode.
Yeah, and, like, sometimes, like, they're actually not too, which is like, yeah, well, that's how it happens in real life, shit. And you're just like, oh no. But, like, it just, like, the one-liners, that's, like, Ice-T comes in with the best one-liners, so does Olivia. It's like, that's what I live for, yes, like, yes. And, like, they have some really great special guest stars as well. Like, Snoop Dogg had an amazing role this past season, so good. And just, like, yeah, the storylines are so heavy, but some of the acting's actually, like, really good, and it engrosses me, so I'm just, like, able to just zone in onto that. I just love it. I love Law & Order Svu. There's a reason why it's been on for, like, 22 seasons. It's because it delivers what we want. It's doing it.
Well, what's funny is I feel like I'm sure they've just cycled through different writers, because, like you said, they've done 21 seasons.
Oh my god, yeah.
They've done 478 episodes.
Oh my god. I've probably seen at least half of them. Maybe a third. Yeah, there's a lot.
Which, like, Law and Order, the regular one, went 20 seasons.
Wow.
But yeah, SVU has gone for 21 so far. And it's funny, like, okay, so I just put the different showrunners. One guy did season 1, one guy did season 2, one guy did season 2 through 12.
Oh.
13 through 17 and 21. Someone did 18 and someone did 19 and 20. So I just
oh my god, there's so many. And they're for sure doing a season 2, and my SVU fans...
season 22?
Season 22. 2. They're for sure doing a season 22, and it's been announced, and I don't know if this means anything to you, Brandon, but it means a lot to me, that Elliot Stabler will be coming back for the season premiere, which is a very big deal. It's a very big deal, and I can't, like, I'm so excited.
I've seen the headlines for that.
Yeah, because it's a really big deal. Like, the show just keeps delivering, because we never thought he'd come back. Like, never thought he'd come back. Like, he didn't die off, but Christopher Maloney was just kind of like, I'm over this. I'm going to go, like, hang out. And then he came back, like, 10 years later. He's coming back. So, just always coming in for it when I need it. And, like, I love the, like, ripped from the headline things. Like, I just love it. Like, I can't. I could watch that show for hours. I have. Like, I probably will when we're done, because now I'm, like, really in a mood to watch it.
Now I gotta ask, have you seen the Community Law and Order episode?
No, I have not.
Okay. If that wasn't part of your homework, I'm just, please, since you're such a Law and Order fan, just watch that episode of Community on Netflix or whatever. It's in season 3. I'll send you the information, but, like, it's, like, the best Law and Order spoof, because, like, they're not hating on it. It's just if you've seen Law and Order, you're like, oh my god, like, this is a Law and Order episode, but it's Community doing something ridiculous.
That's funny.
And and like you could just tell that they love it so much, and that they want to spoof it in the best way possible. So I'm gonna send you that. Yeah. So those are kind of like the shows I want to talk about. There are some movies I want to throw out there. These are going to be four, and they're not like quite the same, but you can totally tell why I'm just like slapping these four together. Rush Hour 1 and 2, and then Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights.
Okay, I've never seen any of those movies.
So they're all Jackie Chan movies.
Okay.
Rush Hour 1 and 2, he's buddied up with Chris Tucker, with the infamous, like, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Oh, yeah, yes.
And then the Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights, it's Jackie Chan with Owen Wilson. Where, like, those take place, like, the first one's kind of like a Western, and then in the second one, like, they go to Britain for a thing, and these movies are just fun. Like, they're totally movies that, like, back in the day when we had cable, like, you'd be flipping through the channels and, like, what am I going to watch? Oh, TBS is showing Rush Hour. Nothing else better's on. Also, I can't say no to Rush Hour. It's the, and, like, same goes for just all of them. Like, I will say, like, don't watch Rush Hour 3. They waited too long to make it. But these are all movies from, like, the late 90s to early 2000s range. And they're just so fun. They have Jackie Chan action, which is usually awesome because he blends comedic with his fight scenes. And he usually is paired off really well. Like, him and Chris Tucker play off each other really well. There's a different dynamic with him and Owen Wilson. Still works really well. They're just fun. They're very simple. And there's like nothing there's no reason to not like the movies. Like, I could see someone watching it and just being like, oh, they're fine. But like, I don't think I could ever meet someone who like watches those and like, oh, I hate these. And I'm like, how? Like, do you not like Jackie Chan? It was just like so much fun to see on camera. Yeah, so those four movies, they're just simple watches to throw on where you can pay attention but also kind of maybe not fully pay attention and still enjoy yourself. They got some action, they got some laughs, and yeah, they're just a lot of fun. I'm sure there's some stuff that I'd be curious if it ages super well, but like they're just PG-13 action comedies with with Jackie Chan with two different pairings that I think, work really well. And I almost wish that there was going to be a third Shanghai movie or maybe another Rush Hour, but done well. Who knows? I highly recommend them. Throw them on. They're a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I'm going to move into some seasonal comfort movies real quick. I'm going to take a quick little sidebar over to the holidays. Because these are movies that I love to watch, but like I don't watch them during like all year round because I'm not crazy. But the first two movies are Hocus Pocus and Nightmare Before Christmas, and I watch both of these movies during Halloween season every year. Nightmare Before Christmas is watched sometime between Halloween and Christmas, obviously. And then Hocus Pocus is like the prelude to Halloween. And I just get so excited every year when they come around, when it's like Halloween season, and I can just get into them. They're both movies I loved during my childhood. And yeah, whenever they're like back for the season, like it just brings me so much comfort. It just relaxes me. It makes me feel like fun. Like Nightmare Before Christmas has a great soundtrack, and the animation is still so fun to watch, and it just like really just warms my heart that like Christmas is around the corner. It's holiday season, yes, and like Hocus Pocus is just the best thing to get into for Halloween, and it does, I don't know, it just like makes me feel warm inside because it's like, yes, the seasons. So both movies just bring me so much comfort when it's like around fall and Christmas. And then another seasonal movie genre that I love is Hallmark Christmas movies. Which again is very cheesy, and that's why I love them. I love them so much because they get you pumped for Christmas. They get you fully in the Christmas spirit because that's all they're about is Christmas. And everything is exactly the same. Like, literally, it's some blonde woman in a Christmas town who either has to, there's like 5 jobs she can choose from in the Hallmark Christmas movie universe, and like she has like 4 obstacles she can choose from. So it's like, uh, Sarah is in Tinseltown and she loves to bake, but she can't bake cupcakes this year. Oh no. Like, it's just, the stakes are so low and nonsensical. I love it.
The stakes are non-existent.
Non-existent. And that's why I love it. I love to just like throw that shit on, have it in the background while I'm like wrapping presents or like doing work, and just like I can like totally zone out of it and then look back up and like, Sarah's finally making the gingerbread cookies. Everything's great. Like, it's just so chill. It's such a chill viewing experience. And I just love it. I love the little Christmas vibes. But again, I wouldn't probably watch that during the summer, although apparently Hallmark Channel has been playing marathons of their Hallmark Christmas movies to get people through quarantine, and I think that's magical. But I have not watched them. But what I have been watching a lot of during quarantine, which is similar to Hallmark Christmas movies, but not really, is Lifetime movies. I love Lifetime movies. I love them.
Usually those are a little bit more like melodramatic, right?
Yes, they are way more melodramatic, and the stakes are like extremely high to the point where it's like, this is insane. I love it. I love watching the campy, cheesy weirdness of it all, the weird acting, the weird like plots. During quarantine, and let me just say, the titles of Lifetime movies are art, just pure art. Like, I just watched Killer in the Guest House. Like, tells you everything you need to know right in that title. There's a killer in a woman's guest house. Oh, no. I watched Killer Prom, which, funnily enough, didn't have a whole lot to do with a prom. Just a killer. Like, I love it. I can get soaked into the camp of it all, and, like, the drama. And, like, every Lifetime or Hallmark Christmas movie is literally an hour and a half. So it's just, like, a long episode. And I just zone in. It makes me feel great. It makes me laugh. I can laugh so hard at Lifetime movies, and just the melodrama of it all just makes me go, okay, my life is fine. Like, we're doing okay here. Like,
gotcha. Lifetime movies and Hallmark movies.
I love them.
Yeah, so I was thinking of some comedies. Like, obviously I talked about some action comedies and some TV comedies. Couple comedies that they're in my top 10 probably comedies of all time that I can throw on and always enjoy. One is Dodgeball.
Nice.
I just think there's a lot of little quippy humor. There's tons of physical humor. It's over the top. It almost makes it. It also makes me wish that Dodgeball was an actual televised sport, because like I would watch that over like most sports. So it's so much fun. Ben Stiller's great in it, and it's one of those movies that I feel like they've tried almost every sport multiple times that totally don't work, and you forget that they ever exist. But like, I'll never forget Dodgeball. It's so much fun. Another one that has Vince Vaughn in it, but it's with Owen Wilson instead of Ben Stiller, Wedding Crashers.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I like how this movie in the beginning seems like it's just going to be a bro-y comedy. Like, in the beginning, it's like, oh, this is just a sleaze fest. Like, they're just hooking up with women and, like, saying shitty things and, like, oh, ha, ha. And then it turns into a rom-com.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
into, like, a weird rom-com that is also digestible for, like, maybe there are people who don't like the traditional rom-com. Like, it's more open for those people. And I just found it funny how it just pulls that switch on you without knowing it, and it still feels like the same movie. But I liked that because when I saw the trailers for Wedding Crashers, I just thought, oh, cool, this is just like old school, but instead of them partying in college, they're partying at weddings.
Yeah, right?
And it's like, no, that's kind of like the opening sequence, and then it becomes totally different movie, gets depressing at some parts, and then comes back, has a great cast, has Rachel McAdams, Owen Wilson, Asa Fisher, Christopher Walken, Bradley Cooper in one of his first roles.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he plays a douchebag. Yeah, it's a movie that I was very pleasantly surprised, and I'm glad I gave it a chance.
Yeah. I'm really interesting because I don't know what this says about me, but I don't love to watch comedies for comfort, which is really weird, you would think. Like, I don't know. I don't know what that's about. I love like some comedy shows, but when it comes to movies, I don't watch a lot of just straight comedies for comfort. The only one that I really do is Anchorman. I could watch Anchorman on repeat. It's just the stupidity of it all, the ridiculousness of it all just makes me laugh every time. And that is just one where it's just, I don't know, just throw it on and be wrapped up in how much I'm laughing over it. I love Anchorman. I think it's again so stupid that it's brilliant, and it just always does it for me. It's always one that like I remember I was going through something really bad like a few years back. I can't remember what it was, and I was talking to my dad for advice on like what to do, and he straight up like when we were wrapping up the phone call was just like, all right, don't worry about it for the rest of the day. Just go watch Anchorman. And like that was his fatherly advice to calm me down. Was like, just go watch Anchorman, and it works. Like it works. It's just something like that. I really can just get into how stupid it is and forget about how intense the world can be because it's so stupid.
I like that. It's like, just put it on.
Yeah. It was great dad advice. And I remember I did that night, and it did make me feel better. And I was like, thanks, Dad. Like, that's great advice.
Yeah. And while I understand, like, that it's, like, I tried to pick more so comedies, but, like, we're obviously giving examples of things that we put on, like, for comfort, but there are things that like you said, they don't have to be comedies, they don't have to be happy, they can be extremely sad, like just be like, I want to be sad,
right?
You know,
yeah,
like they can do that. And like I'll throw out a weird one that I originally didn't put on my list, but like I don't know why, I don't know when it became this for me, but one that I enjoy throwing on, whether it's like I just want something on in the background or I just want to watch something that I know I'm going to enjoy watching, is the 2015 Steve Jobs movie.
That's interesting. That is very interesting, actually.
I think it's just because it's Sorkin's writing.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible acting. Like Danny Boyle does a good job directing as far as the way he rehearsed with these actors so hard. And it feels like it's just like a play because there's just like 3 different time periods that it takes between. And it's just, I don't know. It's like I said, it's something that I've seen a million times now that I can just throw on. And I know, like, maybe it's because it's like low stakes, but then it feels intense. And like me personally, I just love getting wrapped up in incredible dialogue. And like there's this one part in the middle where like Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs and like Jeff Daniels are just like yelling at one another, and like it's Sorkin dialogue, and I'm like, oh, this is just so good.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense to me. Like I totally get that. And like, yeah, like I don't know, comfort viewing is so like subjective because it's just like it's whatever works for you, which is so interesting. And like yeah, Steve Jobs is like a really interesting choice because it's like it's a great movie, and I totally get why it brings you comfort, but it's also like he's kind of an asshole, and he has a lot of issues with his daughter. It's like,
oh yeah, it's
know?
Like it's not like the person,
right?
It's like,
it's just the movie,
and that's
itself.
what I like about Sorkin's adaptations of like real people. It's like he's like, these aren't straight adaptations. These are characters that of these people. And I think I take it out of my head on like what it is, and like yeah, he is doing a lot of asshole things, and like thing is filled with arguments.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably just because Sorkin's dialogue is just music to my ears.
Right. No, I totally get that. A very weird one that I love to watch at all times, and it brings me so much joy, is Scream. I love Scream so much. I could, like, literally at least once a year, I cycle through the series. Like, I don't know what that is about. It's not even necessarily during Halloween. At some point throughout the year, I'm like, you know what? I just feel like watching Scream. And usually it's when I'm feeling down or feeling bad. I don't know what it is, but, like, there's just something about, like, the slasher of it all that, like, just makes me feel good. That's so messed up, but, like, sometimes I'm like, you know what, I just feel like watching murder. That's all I want to do right now. I'm gonna watch some murder, okay? And it does it for me. I don't know,
just watch some murder and calm down.
I'm just gonna watch some bloody murder and, like, chill out. And yeah, like, Scream, I don't know why, like, I've seen it so many times that, like, obviously the horror doesn't, like, really impact me as much as if, like, your first viewing, but there's still just so many things about it that, like, creep me out, or still, like, wow, yeah, like, every time I watch it, when we get to Skeeter Ulrich at his, like, ending scene, I'm still like, damn, that was great, like, every time. And it's just, I don't know, I think maybe too, like, the vibe of it all I really like. Like, I love the environment that it's in, the town it's in, like, this weird little, like, it usually takes place during the fall, so maybe it's something to do with that too. I don't know. But it's just something that, like, lulls me and, like, weirdly makes me feel calm. I don't know, but the Scream franchise is one that, like, it just brings me something positive, which is so weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, this is all subjective, and I really enjoyed the Scream movies when I saw them, but I'd have to give them another watch. It's if they make you happy, then they make you happy, or even if it's like a comfort thing, isn't always about, like, oh, I want to spin back to happiness. You know, sometimes it's just to have something on. I mean, I remember one time I watched, when I saw Annihilation in theaters, that, like, fucked me up, and I felt very weird after. And I just got home, and I'm like, I'm just gonna put on Deadpool.
Yeah,
because
totally.
it's just dumb humor and Ryan Reynolds and, like, some cool action here and there, and I'm like, that I need like a tranquilizer of, like, a like, kind of a more grounded, ridiculous movie than after something trippy like that.
Yes, totally. And yeah, sometimes, like, it's not like you're watching something for a return to happiness. You're, like, just watching something because you enjoy it, or you want, like, a cathartic experience. Like, you want to cry, you want to feel angry, like, you want to channel your emotions through viewing it. And, like, so, I don't know, comfort viewing is really interesting because it all depends on, like, the mood we're in and what we want out of it, and, like, what we like, what we don't like. So, I don't know. Like, just, I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah. A couple that I'm going to bring up here, they're both not fully, like, live action. One is Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh, yes.
It's just a classic, and whenever people haven't seen it, I'm like, are you crazy? You know, I think it's without a doubt the best Muppets movie. I haven't seen them all. I haven't seen probably most of them, but I love pirates, and I think it's such a weird way that they blended, like, pirate stuff with, like, a kids movie. Tim Curry is the villain, Long John Silver. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then the other one I only recently saw the last handful of years, Fantastic Mr. Fox. That stop motion animation, it's so cool. And even though I'm not typically a huge Wes Anderson fan, like, I enjoy his movies, but I'm not, like, he usually either has, like, followers or, like, haters, or, like, people like me who are just like, you know,
Yeah.
they're good. They're some are better, some are worse. But I think Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of his best, and I love the humor in it, and just little things like oh, you cussing at me? Oh, don't you cuss at me? You know, and, like, there's this whole scene where it's, like, Bill Murray and George Clooney's characters, instead of saying fuck, because that would have given it an R rating, they just say cuss. And then it's just a little joke throughout that's just like, what a big, what does he say? A cluster cuss. Like, it just makes me laugh that they they took that and they're able to get the same meaning across as saying fuck, but without saying it.
Yeah.
And like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, don't you cuss at me. Oh, cuss at me. I cuss you. You know, shut the cuss up. You know. It's just a silly movie. It's fun. It's pretty middle of the road stakes, but and it's just so cool because stop motion animation is so fun to watch.
Yeah. So like two other movies for me and like similar to that vein is Moana, which is a recent comfort viewing. I just love Moana. I think it's beautiful. The animation's incredible. The story is great. I also love too that it's like really the only Disney movie that's not, there's no love story whatsoever. The only love story is like between her and her family and her grandma, which is like so great. And the Moana soundtrack slaps. It is so goddamn great. So I love the Moana movie. The look, the feel, and the music is great. And then another one that has been a comfort viewing for me since I was a child is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The original one, obviously, not the deranged Johnny Depp nonsense. That's just...
Well, that one's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You're talking about Willy Wonka.
I'm talking about Willy Wonka. Both are somewhat nightmare fluid, but both are somewhat nightmare fuel, but like the OG is better. I love the whimsicalness of it all, the look and the feel and like the fun, weird, chocolatey magic candy stuff happening, all the weird things that happen to the kids while they're there, all the again, soundtrack slaps. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory soundtrack slaps. It does.
No, just you using slaps.
The Veruca Salt song about how she wants everything. Girl, yes, I get you. Like, it's so good. And I don't know, like, of course it's a weird as hell movie, and there's some, like, definite, like, flaws and weird things happening. Don't even get me started on Grandpa Joe, whatever. But, like, I enjoy it so much because of how whimsical and magical it is. It brings you into, like, a whole new world.
Yeah. I gotta ask, this is a total sidebar, but have you seen John Mulaney's bit about Willy Wonka?
I don't think so, but I want to. That sounds great already.
It's mainly him talking about the Grandpa Joe, like all the grandparents in the same bed. Like the 4 grandparents in the same bed, and the fact that he's like, oh, I haven't walked in 40 years, you know, or whatever. It's just like, what? You're like, even if you're 70, you haven't walked since you were 30. And like and then he's like, he stands up and walks. It's like, guess I can. It's just like, it's like, wait, you didn't try? Like, he perfectly, I love his material about movies. He perfectly takes a movie from our childhood and he doesn't hate on it. He just makes you look at it differently, laugh, and like still clearly loves it because he knows the things so well.
Right.
He has another great bit about Back to the Future, which is a transition to my last one I'm going to bring up. Back to the Future. I mean, what do I need to say more? It's an all-time great. It's in my like top 5 of all time. I could say this pretty much for part 2 as well. You know, part 3 is still fun. But yeah, that entire trilogy, I think, especially the first one, is just so much fun. It shouldn't have worked, like with the sci-fi elements, it being a comedy, and it being with him interacting with his parents when they were young, and like so many things could have went wrong, but it just went so right and was so good. It's a movie you can watch over and over, and I don't think it's old, and it's fun. It's just fun.
Yep.
Just a classic, and I don't understand how anyone would not anything but enjoy it.
Yeah, I've never really met anyone who hates Back to the Future, but maybe they're out there. I don't know. Could be a thing. I don't know. Yeah. So my last movie that I'll talk about is The Dark Knight. I
Nice.
It brings me comfort every time I flip it on. It's like I usually just need a distraction. I need something like to just I need to zone in on something. And even though I've seen the movie a million times, it still hooks me in. Like I still get hooked in, and I every time I watch it, I go back to that feeling of watching it when I first saw it in theaters, especially the opening scene. The opening scene is still everything. Like I when I'm watching it, I feel like how I was when I was watching it in theaters and being like, "Oh, whoa. What do they say about the Joker? Who is he? Whoa, whoa, whoa." Like I'm just into it. And it's just one for me that like I think Heath Ledger's performance just like really is always just so engrossing. So it's really easy just to get caught up in it and kind of like forget everything else going on in the world. And it's a movie, again, like I've watched so many times that I'm very familiar with it too. So I go back to it because of the feeling it kind of gives me of like, oh, I know this. I know what's happening. Like this is all right. So yeah, Dark Knight. It's funny though, because like I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way. It's the best of the whole trilogy, and to me, it's like really the only one that I continuously rewatch. Like I've seen Batman Begins multiple times, not nearly as much as The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises I've seen like twice, and I'm like, no, I'm good. No. So, The Dark Knight just does it for me.
Yeah, I can totally tell why. It's one of my favorites too, and yeah, it's got action. It'll make you laugh. Great performances. What's not to like?
Yeah, everything about it just sucks me in, and I can easily forget about like anything going on in the world, anything that's upsetting me, and just get right into the story every single time.
Definitely. Well, everyone, we hope you enjoyed us chatting about our comfort movies. Hopefully, if you haven't seen some of these, you throw them on. If you have, and maybe it's been a while since you've seen them and you want to throw those on, but please share your comfort movies with us, or comfort shows, comfort viewings in general, and let us know on social media and such. But before we go, Jess, do we want to give each other our viewing homework?
Yeah, so we're doing viewing homework again. It's been quite a while since the last time we did it, so we thought it'd be fun to do it again since we are all looking for content to digest while we are hanging out at home. So this time around, we're doing a TV show, a podcast episode, and a movie. So if you want to follow along with us, please do, because when the episode does come, we'll probably be talking about it openly. So if you're going to be confused at all, you might want to skip that one, or you might want to get into this content with us and talk about it and listen to us talk about it.
Yeah, and these are things that specifically the other person hasn't seen yet.
Yes.
Or heard.
Yes, yeah, and that maybe I think would be interested in. I kind of, like last time we did this, I chose things that I thought you would like never ever watch and just wanted to see like how you went in on it, and I think you kind of did the same for me too. But like this time around I was more like, okay, well, what will he actually like enjoy watching and like maybe get into? So yeah, are you ready for your assignment, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay, so for TV, I am assigning you the pilot of Succession, and I really hope you go further into it because I think you will love it, and I've said that many times, and I will say it until you watch it all. So I'm going to harass you into watching Succession, but for this, I'm just assigning you the pilot. For podcast, I am assigning you an episode of Getting Curious with Jonathan Van Ness. Kind of a callback to our last viewing homework when I assigned you Queer Eye to watch. This time around,
and I still haven't finished because like each episode makes me cry.
It's just so it's just so much to watch, so many emotions.
Yes.
This time the episode that I'm assigning you the topic is how do we stay healthy in the age of coronavirus. If you guys at home like want to listen to, I think it's a really great episode. I've listened to it. It has some like hope and positivity about what we do during all this crazy time. Yeah, so if you also just need to uplift your spirits, I would say listen to that, which is why I assigned it to Brandon. And then the movie I've decided is a horror, which makes me so happy. I have assigned you the movie Don't Breathe from, I think, 2016. Yeah, so that's your homework.
All right, I am down. Yeah, these are all things that I would have watched or listened to at some point, but now that they're homework, they're gonna go towards the top of the list and gonna get into them sooner. Yeah, I'm excited for your homework too, Jess, because like I feel like between the two of us, there's more stuff that like you've seen that I haven't versus that like I've seen and you haven't. Like it's usually it feels like you've seen more, or just like we've seen more of the same stuff and you've seen more that I haven't seen, if that makes sense at all. So it was kind of hard to find something that you hadn't that I really wanted to make like a priority. So the TV show that I picked was one that was just within the last year or so that came out. It's already been renewed for a season 2, and I believe a season 3 already. And that is the pilot of The Boys on Amazon. It's a comic book adaptation. Takes place in a world where like you're gonna look at superheroes and like that stuff very differently. And I love the tone. It's so well done, and I think it's done at a perfect time with how frequent superhero content and comic book content is out, that like this makes so much sense to come out now. It wouldn't have had the same effect if it was years ago when these movies and shows weren't all over, if that makes sense. That's the TV show. Podcast, I actually know the host of this podcast and I've gotten hooked on it. It's more of a storytelling type podcast. It's called That Time I Got Arrested, and it kind of chronicles the life of the host, B. Casper. She's lived a wild life. Was the kid of a drug dealer and witnessed a lot of things when she was younger, and then she eventually started dealing drugs herself, and like now she's in stand-up comedy and doing this podcast, and it very much is like a book, but like each episode's kind of like a chapter, and she's very brutally honest, very vulnerable, a lot of fun, just a great storyteller, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having you listen because it's chronological, listen to the first. It's sort of like an episode 0 kind of intro to what the show is going to be like, and then episode 1. Usually her episodes are 20 to 40 minutes. They're like less than an hour, so please check it out. It's called That Time I Got Arrested, with B. Casper. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it sounds really awesome. I'm really excited to listen to it.
Yeah, and I think you'll especially like it because like you usually like crime related things, and also the fact that this is someone that's around our age and like she's lived the life that she's lived. Yeah, it's wild. So that's the podcast, and then a movie. I wanted to list some of my favorite movies of all time and kind of gave you a grouping, and you had seen all of them, like pretty much but this one.
Yep.
This is one that's usually in my top 10. It's Sorkin's first movie. Also, it was a play that he wrote that he adapted into a movie. It's A Few Good Men.
I'm very excited to watch it. It's one of those that, like you said, I've been meaning to watch. It's been on my list forever. And now it's at the top because I'm assigned it. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's, like I said, Sorkin's script. It's got a stacked cast with Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Jack Nicholson. Obviously, it's got the infamous "You Can't Handle the Truth."
Right.
But it's just such a good courtroom drama, but also like investigative piece. And I think like even though Law and Order and such, like there's a lot of lawyer shows and whatnot, like this was, I think, part of the craze, because like this is from the early 90s, and then there was things like The Practice and Boston Legal and like tons of other courtroom things. That there's a reason why it's often considered one of the best courtroom movies of all time. But since you're also a fan of Sorkin, I knew you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm a fan of Sorkin. I'm a fan of a courtroom drama. I am in. I'm ready.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of cults, and Tom Cruise is in it. So all the boxes are checked.
Not what I thought you were going to say at all. Awesome. Well, all right, guys. Those are our assignments that we'll go over in the next episode or so. Please follow along if you like. Or if you have suggestions for things that we should assign each other down the road. We'll see who's seen it, who hasn't. And yeah, this will hopefully be something we can continue in between all the other episodes. But yeah, that has been Comfort Viewings. What are some topics you want to hear us talk about? Whether there's some more comforting topics or things that you want us to just generally chat about, since it's a time where there's not new movies coming out, really.
Yep. Nope.
Nope, there's not.
There's some on demand, and I'm not interested in watching any of them. So, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, I think one of the only ones that I was interested in was like HBO's like That Bad Education.
Oh yeah, I have heard that's actually really good. So I will watch that. The other ones that are like, what, the like High Note or The Last Note or like something about a note, and then there was like, yeah, I don't know. Like I just constantly am seeing like this would have been in theaters, and I want to be like, how would that have made any money? Because I won't even watch that at home. What are you talking about? Like...
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, Jess, where can they find you on the social medias?
I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at JessKwazz, Jess Kwazz. And I just got a Twitch very recently. I am really bad at video games, and I've had a lot of fun streaming myself stumbling through video games. So if you're interested in watching me be really bad at gaming and very messy at it, you can follow me on Twitch at JessKwazz, Jess Kwazz.
Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon Prosek, Prosek. And please follow Entertainment Buffet on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, things like that for the podcast. Check us out there. We're going to be hopefully bringing you some new video content, as maybe some additional audio content on this feed besides just our podcast. So yeah, please follow, subscribe, like, share, all the above, rate, review. Do all the things that you would do. It takes a few seconds. You got time now. Do the things. It really helps us out.
Yeah, no excuses.